The bridge of the Cafeteria research vessel flickered between emergency lighting and total darkness. As Chief Navigators HFY watched their systems die one by one, the elegant crystalline displays that had guided them through 17 successful survey missions now showed nothing but static and error cascades. Around him, the diverse crew of the Galactic Research Alliance worked frantically at their stations, three-armed Vorthic engineers, insectoid Cretan scientists, and the towering golem-like Threnody, all united in their growing desperation. "Hull, breach in sections 7 through 9, announced Dr. Mira Velter, the ship's Andorian chief medical officer, her blue skin pale with stress. "Emergency bulkheads are holding, but life support is failing faster than we can compensate." The attack had come without warning. Pirates, a ragtag fleet of salvaged warships operating in the lawless Omega Drift, had overwhelmed their minimal defenses within minutes. The Cafeteria was built for discovery, not war. Her sensors could map an entire star system. Her laboratories could analyze alien DNA down to individual base pairs. But her weapons were little more than mining lasers. "Communications array is completely fried," reported Keffer, their Cretan communications specialist, his compound eyes reflecting the dying console lights. "The quantum entanglement link to homeworld was severed in the first salvo. We're completely cut off from Alliance space." Captain Velkoth, a distinguished Vorthic whose family had served in the Research Alliance for 6 generations, stood at the center of the chaos with the bearing of someone who had never faced defeat. His 3 arms worked independently, one gripping his command chair, another manipulating his personal datapad, the third unconsciously smoothing his ceremonial sash. "How long until complete system failure?" 14 hours, maybe less, HFY replied, his elongated fingers dancing across his dying navigation console. "The pirates damaged our quantum core during their bombardment. We're running on backup fusion cells, but they're not designed for long-term life support." The silence that followed was broken only by the groaning of stressed hull plating and the irregular hum of failing life support systems. They all knew what this meant. The nearest Alliance outpost was 3 days away at full burn, impossible to reach with their damaged engines. The pirates had taken everything of value and left them to die slowly in the cosmic void. "There is one option," Keffer said hesitantly, his mandibles clicking with uncertainty. "The emergency beacon, the one that broadcasts on all frequencies, even the forbidden ones." Captain Velkoth's 3 eyes narrowed. "You mean the channels used by smugglers, pirates, and others and humans?" Dr. Velter added with obvious distaste. "The new species that everyone whispers about, the ones who supposedly don't follow galactic law." HFY had heard the stories. Humans had emerged from a small blue world on the galaxy's rim just decades ago, spreading through space like wildfire with their impossible engines and reckless courage. Unlike the careful, methodical expansion of civilized species, humans seemed to appear everywhere at once, exploring, trading, fighting, and generally ignoring the established order that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia. "The forbidden channels are monitored by criminals and worse," Captain Velkoth said. "We could be inviting another attack." "With respect, Captain," HFY said, "we're already dying. At least this way, someone might hear us." The captain's 3 arms stopped moving. For a long moment, he stared at the deteriorating displays showing their ship's vital signs. Finally, he nodded. "Do it." Keffer's segmented fingers flew over his console, bypassing safety protocols and encryption systems, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies, including the restricted ones. "If anyone is listening within a 10 light-year radius, they'll hear us." The message was simple, transmitted in basic galactic common: "Research vessel Cafeteria in critical distress. Life support failing. Location, Omega Drift, Sector 77 Alpha. Any vessel capable of assistance, please respond. We are dying." They waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The life support systems continued their steady decline, and hope began to fade. Then, impossibly, the communications array crackled to life. The voice that came through was unlike anything they'd ever heard, rough, direct, and speaking accented galactic, common with a strange musical quality. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Alara Quinn aboard the freighter Dustwing. I heard your distress call. What's your situation? Asterisk. The crew of the Cafeteria stared at their communications console in stunned silence. After hours of broadcasting into the void, someone had actually answered, but the voice distinctly human. By all accounts carried none of the formal protocols they were accustomed to. From Alliance Communications, I repeat, this is Captain Quinn of the Dustwing. The voice continued, you mentioned life support. Failure. How many souls aboard, and how long do you have? Captain Velkoth gestured to Keffer, who opened the channel with trembling appendages. Unknown vessel Dustwing. This is Captain Velkoth of the Galactic Research Alliance ship Cafeteria. We have a crew of 12, multiple species. Life support critical failure estimated at 11 hours remaining. A pause, then Alliance ship. That's a long way from home. What happened to you? We were attacked by pirates while conducting a routine survey mission. Our quantum core was damaged, engines are at 15%, and all long-range communications are down. Pirates, huh? The human's voice carried a note of grim familiarity. Let me guess, mixed fleet, older ships, probably led by a modified hegemony destroyer. Dr. Velter exchanged glances with Zex-High. How could you possibly know that? Because I've been tracking the same bastards for 3 months. They hit a civilian transport near the Kepler belt, killed everyone aboard except one little girl who hid in the cargo hold for 6 days before I found her. The voice hardened. I've been hunting them ever since. The bridge fell silent again. This human wasn't just a random rescuer, she was some kind of vigilante, operating outside any known authority. Captain Velkoth's military training screamed warnings, but their situation left no room for protocol. Captain Quinn, he said carefully, we appreciate your response, but we should inform you that we have no way to compensate you for any assistance. Our cargo hold contains only scientific equipment and research samples. A sound came through the comm that took them a moment to recognize human laughter. Captain, I'm not here for salvage rights. You sent out a distress call, and I answered. That's how it works. But surely you have your own schedule, your own priorities. My priority right now is making sure you and your crew don't die in the black. The human interrupted. I'm running silent to avoid detection, but I can reach your position in approximately 4 hours. Can you hold out that long? Zex-High quickly consulted his failing systems. Possibly, if we reduce life support to minimum levels and seal off all non-essential compartments. Do it, and listen carefully. I need you to prepare for emergency docking. My ship isn't equipped for multiple species life support, so we'll need to use your vessel as much as possible. Can your engines handle a tow? Engines are damaged but functional, Zex-High reported. Where exactly are you planning to take us? Another pause. There's an abandoned mining station about 8 hours away at full burn. It's not pretty, but it has atmosphere and basic facilities. We can hold out there while I work on getting you back to Alliance space. The casual way she said it, as if rescuing a dying alien crew was just another item on her daily schedule, left them speechless. Captain Velkoth finally found his voice. Captain Quinn, may I ask why you're willing to risk your own safety for complete strangers? Because someone has to, came the simple reply, and because I know what it's like to send out a distress call and have nobody answer. The connection cut out, leaving them alone with their failing systems and a growing sense of disbelief. They had expected death, or perhaps another pirate attack. Instead, they had found something none of them had been prepared for: a human who seemed to consider their survival a personal responsibility. Dr. Velter was the first to break the silence. Is she insane? One ship against those pirates. Humans have a reputation for unconventional tactics, Keffer observed, but also for effectiveness. Captain Velkoth studied the tactical display, his 3 arms working to calculate intercept courses and defensive positions. Ready emergency docking procedures. If this human is willing to risk her life for ours, the least we can do is make sure we're ready when she arrives. As the crew began their preparations, none of them noticed the small fleet of contacts that had begun moving on the edge of sensor range, or the fact that their rescuer was flying directly into the same pirates who had nearly destroyed them. Asterisk. Captain Alara Quinn sat in the cramped cockpit of the Dustwing, watching the scanner display with the intensity of a predator tracking wounded prey. The retrofitted human freighter wasn't much to look at. Her hull was a patchwork of repairs. Her engines were civilian models pushed far beyond their safety ratings, and her weapons were cobbled together from salvaged military hardware. But she was fast, she was quiet, and most importantly, she was all Alara had left. Picking up multiple contacts, she muttered to herself, a habit developed during long months of solitary travel. 3. No, for ships in a loose formation. Around the Cafeteria. Looks like our pirate friends decided to come back for seconds. The lead ship was exactly what she'd expected, a modified hegemony destroyer, probably stolen from a military graveyard and fitted with civilian weapons. The others were a mix of converted cargo haulers and patrol boats, all bristling with mismatched armaments. Together, they could easily destroy a research vessel, but they were also the kind of undisciplined rabble that made tactical mistakes. Alara's fingers danced across her control panel, activating stealth systems that would have been illegal in civilized space. Computer, analyze enemy formation. Look for weak points, warning. Her ship's AI responded in a maddeningly calm voice. Enemy vessels outnumber us 4-1. Recommend immediate retreat. Computer, when have I ever listened to your tactical advice? Never, Captain. Updating combat protocols to match your historically reckless behavior patterns. Despite everything, Alara smiled. She'd programmed the AI herself, basing its personality on her old academy flight instructor, a crusty veteran who'd never let her get away with anything. It had been 3 years since she'd heard another human voice, and sometimes the familiar sarcasm was the only thing that kept her sane. Enemy vessels are moving into attack formation around the research ship, the AI continued. It appears they're preparing for, wait, detecting incoming transmission. Alara's blood ran cold as a familiar voice filled her cockpit gravelly, cruel, and speaking in the pigeon trade language used by pirates across the galaxy. Little Alliance ship, this is Captain Thorkel aboard the Bloodfang. You've lasted longer than expected, but playtime is over. She could see the research vessel, now a graceful white shape against the cosmic void, surrounded by predators like a wounded dove circled by hawks. The Cafeteria was trying to maneuver, but her damaged engines left her practically helpless. You have something that belongs to us, Thorkel continued. Those sensor rays, the quantum laboratory equipment worth more than your pathetic lives. Surrender now, and we'll make your deaths quick. Alara's hands tightened on her controls. She'd heard Thorkel's voice before, in the recordings recovered from that destroyed transport. The little girl who'd survived had whispered about the demon voice that had laughed while her parents died. Not today, you bastard, she whispered. Opening a channel to the research vessel, she spoke quickly. Captain Velkoth, this is Quinn. I'm in position, but we have a problem. For hostiles surrounding your position, and they're not here for negotiation. Captain Quinn, came the Vorthic's strained voice, we appreciate your courage, but your single vessel cannot possibly. Trust me, Alara interrupted. I've been hunting these particular pirates for months. I know their patterns, their weaknesses, but I need you to do exactly what I say, when I say it. Can you do that? A pause. What do you need? In 60 seconds. I'm going to light up that destroyer's engines. When I do, you'll have maybe 10 seconds before they realize what's happening. Use that time to get your nose pointed toward the mining station coordinates I sent you, and give me everything your engines have left. Captain Quinn, that's suicide. You cannot engage for ships alone. Alara checked her weapons systems one final time. Missile tubes loaded, rail guns charged, and her trump card, a prototype EMP torpedo stolen from a black market dealer ready to deploy. Captain, 3 months ago I found a 7-year-old girl floating in a rescue pod, orphaned by these same pirates. She's safe now, living with relatives on New Geneva. But every night I think about the last thing her mother transmitted before they died. Someone, anyone, please help us. She paused, watching the pirate formation tighten around there. Pray. Nobody answered that call. Captain, nobody came. I won't let that happen again. The channel went quiet except for the background hum of failing life support systems. Finally, Captain Velkoth's voice came through, steady despite the circumstances. We're ready, Captain Quinn. And thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a long way to go. Alara took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the firing controls. In her mind, she could hear her academy instructor's voice. Combat is 10% tactics and 90%. Deciding you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect the people counting on you. Computer, execute attack pattern Alpha 7. And try to keep us alive long enough to see how this plays out. Acknowledged, Captain. Though I should point out that your survival probability is, I know the odds. Fire. Asterisk. The Dustwing erupted from the cosmic shadows like an avenging spirit, her weapons blazing with surgical precision. Alara's first salvo caught the pirate's rear guard completely off balance to rail gun rounds, punched through the shields of a converted cargo hauler, while a spread of missiles forced the patrol boats to break formation. What the hell? Thorkel's voice cut through the calm static, shock and rage warring in his tone. All ships, target that human vessel. Kill her now. But Alara was already moving, her ship dancing through space with the fluid grace of a predator that had learned to hunt in 3 dimensions. The Dustwing spiraled around the destroyed cargo hauler, using the wreckage as cover while her enemies scrambled to respond to the unexpected attack. Cafeteria, execute maneuver now. Alara barked into her comm while dodging a burst of plasma fire that would have vaporized a lesser ship. Captain Velkoff didn't hesitate. The research vessel's damaged engines roared to life, pushing her away from the pirate formation, just as Alara had planned. The aliens might not understand human tactics, but they could follow orders when survival depended on it. Computer, launch torpedo. Target the destroyer's engine section. Firing. Her AI responded with what sounded almost like enthusiasm. Impact in 15 seconds. The prototype weapon streaked through space, its stealth coating making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Alara had paid a fortune for it on the black market, money that could have bought a new ship, or at least proper repairs for her current one. But as she watched it slam into the Bloodfang's reactor housing, she knew it was worth every credit. The destroyer's lights flickered and died as the electromagnetic pulse fried her electronics. For a crucial moment, Thorkel's flagship was blind and helpless, drifting in space like a metal coffin. Scratch one destroyer, Alara muttered. But her celebration was short-lived. The remaining patrol boats were closing fast, and her ship was already showing damage from their initial barrage. Dustwing, this is Dr. Velter aboard the Cafeteria, came an unexpected voice over the comm. Our sensors show you're taking heavy damage. We want to help. Alara blinked in surprise. Doctor, this is a combat situation. You're civilians, we're scientists, the Andorian replied firmly, which means we solve problems. Our mining lasers may not be weapons, but at close range they can cut through hull plating. If you can get those patrol boats near us. A wild plan began forming in Alara's mind. Can you coordinate with my attack computer? Link your targeting systems to mine? Already working on it, interrupted Keffer's voice. Human-computer protocols are surprisingly adaptable. Within moments, the two ships were sharing tactical data in real time. Alara found herself grinning as she watched the research vessel move with newfound purpose, her harmless mining equipment suddenly looking very dangerous indeed. Patrol boat scavenger. You're being targeted by both vessels, Alara announced. Over the general comm. Surrender now, and you'll live to see tomorrow. The pirate response was predictable, a stream of profanity in 6 different languages, followed by a desperate attack run. But Alara was ready. She led the patrol boat into the Cafeteria's firing range while simultaneously flanking its partner, catching both vessels in a perfectly coordinated crossfire. The mining lasers proved devastatingly effective at close range, slicing through pirate armor like a surgeon's scalpel. Within minutes, both patrol boats were venting atmosphere and begging for mercy. This is impossible. Thorkel's voice came through the static, his destroyer still struggling to restart its systems. One human ship cannot defeat a full pirate fleet. I'm not just one ship, Alara replied, watching the research vessel position itself protectively near her damaged freighter. I've got friends. The truth was, she was running on fumes. Her engines were overheating, her weapons were nearly depleted, and hull breaches were making her life support work overtime. But the Cafeteria was safe, the immediate threat was neutralized, and for the first time in months, she wasn't alone. "Captain Quinn," came Captain Volkoth's voice, formal but warm. "Our engines are stable, and we're detecting that mining station you mentioned. If you can manage the navigation, we can tow your vessel." Alara looked at her dying systems and then at the alien ship that had just risked everything to fight beside her. 3 years ago, she'd been abandoned by her own fleet, left to die in a similar situation. She'd survived by luck and stubbornness, but the experience had left her bitter and isolated. Now, complete strangers, aliens, who had every reason to distrust humans, were offering to save her life. "In return, I'd appreciate that, Captain," she said quietly. "And Volkoth, your crew, fought well today. I'd be honored to serve alongside them again." As the two ships limped toward the abandoned mining station, leaving the disabled pirates behind for the authorities to find, none of them realized that their brief alliance had just changed the galaxy forever. The abandoned mining station, Kepler's Edge, had seen better days. Built into a hollow asteroid 50 years ago and left to rot when the ore ran out, it still maintained basic life support and artificial gravity enough to keep them alive. While they figured out what came next, Alara floated in the station's main docking bay, watching the Cafeteria's crew work alongside her makeshift repair drones. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just days ago. A 3-armed Vorthic engineer consulting with human maintenance protocols, while a Cretan scientist analyzed the metallurgy of improvised hull patches. Dr. Velter had, somehow, managed to synthesize medical supplies compatible with human physiology, treating the burns Alara had sustained during the pirate attack. "Your ship's design is fascinating," commented HFY, the navigator, as he watched her repair drones work. "These modifications shouldn't be possible according to standard engineering principles." Alara grinned, her face still showing the stress of their recent battle. "Humans have a saying, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Half my ship is held together with military-grade duct tape and pure stubbornness, and yet it functions better than ships costing 10 times as much," Captain Volkoth observed. He stood nearby, his formal bearing softened by genuine curiosity. "Your tactical abilities are extraordinary. Where did you learn to fight like that?" The question hit closer to home than Alara was comfortable with. "Fleet Academy. Before things went sideways, I was part of the first human deep space exploration program. 12 ships, hand-picked crews, meant to make first contact with galactic civilization." Her expression darkened. "Turns out first contact is complicated when your own people decide you're expendable." Dr. Velter looked up from her medical scanner. "Your fleet abandoned you. Political decision. The Admiralty decided that one lost ship was an acceptable sacrifice, if it meant better trade agreements with the hegemony." Alara's voice was matter-of-fact, but her hands clenched slightly. "I've been on my own ever since, trying to figure out how to live in a galaxy that operates by rules nobody ever taught me." The alien crew exchanged glances. Their own cultures were built on cooperation, mutual aid, and collective responsibility. The idea of deliberately abandoning allies was almost incomprehensible. "That's why you answered our call," Kepler said suddenly. "You know what it feels like to be abandoned." Alara nodded. "Nobody should die alone in the dark if there's someone who can help. That's not politics or strategy, it's just basic decency." Captain Volkoth was quiet for a long moment, his 3 eyes studying this unusual human who had risked everything for strangers. Finally, he spoke. "Captain Quinn, the Galactic Research Alliance has protocols for situations like this. You saved our lives and our ship, by law. We owe you a debt that can only be repaid through formal recognition." "I don't need recognition." "What you need and what you deserve are different things," the Vorthic interrupted firmly. "Kepler, are you recording this?" The communications specialist nodded. His compound eyes focused on a small recording device. "Full-spectrum documentation, suitable for Alliance archives." Captain Volkoth straightened into his most formal posture. "Let the record show that on this date, in this place." Captain Alara Quinn of the independent vessel Dustwing answered the distress call of the Research Alliance ship Cafeteria when no other vessel would respond. Facing overwhelming odds and at great personal risk, she engaged hostile forces and coordinated a successful rescue of 12 Alliance citizens. He paused, looking directly at Alara. Furthermore, let the record show that she did so not for profit, not for political gain, but because she believed it was the right thing to do. In the name of the Galactic Research Alliance, I hereby grant Captain Quinn the status of Honorary Alliance citizen, with all the rights and protections thereof. Alara stared at him. Captain, I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, Dr. Velter suggested gently, because this recording will be transmitted to every Alliance world, every research station, every diplomatic outpost. Your story will be told wherever Alliance citizens gather. But why? HFY stepped forward. Because the galaxy needs to know that when everyone else followed protocol and stayed safe, a human kept us alive. Because other crews in distress need to know that someone will answer their calls. Because, he gestured to the mixed group of species working together in the docking bay. Because you showed us what we could be when we stopped seeing each other as aliens. Over the following weeks, as jury-rigged repairs got both ships spaceworthy, and they made their way back to Alliance territory, the story began to spread. The recording was transmitted, copied, and shared across the galaxy. Soon, every cantina, every spaceport, every research facility had heard the tale of the human who answered when no one else would. Some versions were exaggerated. They had Alara single-handedly destroying an entire pirate armada. Others were simplified, reducing the complex cooperation between species to a simple rescue mission. But the core remained consistent. When the Kethmora sent out their desperate signal, only one being in the galaxy had cared enough to respond. And that being was human. 6 months later, Alara stood on the observation deck of the Alliance research station Endeavor, watching new ships arrive daily. The station had become an unofficial hub for what people were calling Quinn's network. Independent captains, merchant vessels, and even some military ships that had adopted her philosophy. If someone sends a distress call, you answer it, no matter who they are or where they're from. Captain Velkoth found her there, his formal robes replaced by practical work clothes. He'd requested a transfer to the frontier, citing the need for more hands-on research opportunities. In reality, everyone knew he'd been inspired by Alara's example. The new communications array is online, he reported. We can now monitor distress calls across 17 sectors simultaneously. Alara nodded, watching a human cargo ship dock alongside a Cretan science vessel. Any word from the Outer Rim? 3 calls this week, all answered within 6 hours. He joined her at the viewport. The pirates have mostly moved on to easier hunting grounds. Turns out it's hard to prey on vessels when half the galaxy is willing to come running. At the first sign of trouble, they stood in comfortable silence, watching the controlled chaos of the docking bays below. Finally, Velkoth spoke again. There's a proposal making its way through Alliance leadership. They want to establish a formal rescue service, with you as the commanding officer. Alara shook her head. That's not how this works. The moment you make it official, it becomes about politics and budgets and territory. What we have now is better people, helping people because they choose to, not because they're ordered to. Then what's next for you? Alara smiled, looking out at the stars. Same thing as always. Keep listening to the distress calls. Keep answering when others won't. Keep proving that the galaxy is bigger than the people who try to divide it. As, if summoned by her words, an emergency beacon lit up on the communication board. Somewhere in the void, another ship was in trouble. Another crew was facing the darkness alone. Alara was already moving toward the docking bay before the full message came through. Behind her, Captain Velkoth smiled and activated his comm unit. All ships, all stations, this is Endeavor Control. We have a Code 7 distress call in Sector 12. Who's closest to respond? The answers came immediately. 5 different ships, 3 different species, all racing to be the first to help. And in the growing network of rescuers and rescued, a new legend was being written across the stars, the legend of the human, who taught the galaxy that sometimes one person answering the call is all it takes to change everything. Asterisk.